This episode is brought to you by Podcast Assist, offering voiceovers, audio editing and mastering, transcriptions and show notes, episode summaries, and even hosting a podcast on a topic important to you. Visit facebook.com/Podcast Assist for more info on their flat $30 per hour rate.
Talk radio, music, and podcasts from the Korean Peninsula. KoreaFM.net.
The Asia Institute is a Seoul-based think tank that addresses global issues with a focus, of course, on Asia, and is committed to presenting a balanced perspective that takes into account the concerns of the entire region for things like current trends in technology, international relations, the economy, and, of course, the environment. I've covered several talks and lectures over the last few years that the Asia Institute has held, and I'm joined now by Asia Institute Director and Kyungki University Professor Emmanuel Pastreich to talk about their upcoming Peace March this Sunday, May 14th, that will take place in the Gwanghwamun area of Seoul. So, Professor Pastreich, great to speak with you again. It's been a while since I've seen you in person.
Right, it's a great pleasure to be in touch again.
So let's talk about this event. I was really happy that you were able to speak to me just a few days before you get going so I can try to get the word out. Why is the Asia Institute organizing this Peace March now?
Right. So about 2 years ago, we started the Korea Peace Movement as part of the Asia Institute, which is run by an Indian, Indian Korean, Lakvinder Singh, who's become a Korean citizen recently. We felt that there was not really much of an effort in Korea to actively advocate for peace. So we've done a series of seminars specifically on that topic, how to promote, how to set the groundwork for how to actively create a peaceful environment. And within that context, Dr. Singh proposed that we should do a peace march. At the time, well, there's still actually a considerable amount of uncertainty and tension in East Asia, but particularly with North Korea and these threats of war, et cetera. We felt it was really the right time to actively be out there and to say we need a different vision for what's possible. We need to, as Gandhi said, not wage war, but wage peace, proactively promote a peaceful vision of what's possible.
This idea that you just brought up that there's not, just to paraphrase, not a lot of action on the peace movement front in South Korea, for a country that has had this constant threat from North Korea for such a long time. Now that you mentioned it, I guess I am a little surprised that there's not more of a peace movement here. It could be that I'm just not tied into it. This is obviously not my area of expertise. But as someone who is involved with this Peace March and does, of course, a lot of work with the Asia Institute, why do you think it is that there might be some sort of lack of momentum, lack of action taking place on the peace front in an area that, of course, is concerned with peace, the Korean Peninsula?
Right. So, of course, there are many organizations promoting peace in Korea. I don't want to suggest that doesn't exist. However, it was truly remarkable to me over the last 6 months. We had constant demonstrations against the previous President Park Geun-hye, demonstrations against THAAD deployment, demonstrations against the abuse of labor, demonstrations on a whole number of subjects. And those are all important. However, there really was no large-scale, even small-scale demonstrations I saw on the subject of peace, or for that matter, actually, on climate change, which there have been little things on climate change, but it has not really taken off. I think the reason for it, in part, is, well, actually, I was going to make up some ideas, but I guess it may be more honest to say I don't really know why that's the case. I think that activism in Korea has not been so much, has been more traditionally driven by this idea of opposing authoritarian government and promoting for interaction with North Korea per se. But the idea that the peace in East Asia is the primary issue has been relatively limited.
To move on to a related but different subject in lieu of this peace march that you're going to be doing, it's of course died down a bit, but we mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, within the last month or so, been a lot of escalating tensions, as is often described by the media concerning the Korean Peninsula. So what are your thoughts about the rhetoric that's been coming from U.S. President Donald Trump? Also North Korea, of course, China is involved with this. Japan's involved. The entire area is involved with this hotbed of tensions, if you will, that is the Korean Peninsula. Right.
Well, as an American, I find it, I would say, disgraceful or grotesque the way in which the current administration has tried to hype up tensions through threat of unilateral attacks without any justification, totally illegal both by U.S. law and by international law, doing things that presidents are not authorized to do. In order to create attention, and have, of course, all my family were calling me saying, when's the war going to break out, because of what they saw on TV or read in the newspapers. And then the next day to go and say, well, I'd be happy to meet with, as President Trump said, be happy to meet with Kim Jong-un anytime, and he seems like a nice guy. I mean, just backwards and forwards, and then say the THAAD, the anti-missile system, that Korea had to have it, forcing it down their throat, basically, and then saying you have to pay us $1 billion. And by the way, we might renegotiate the free trade agreement if we, implying, of course, that the security issues were linked to trade issues, to everything. So I think most Asians, not just Koreans, walked away from that thinking that no one knows what's going on in Washington, D.C., that you have a group of rank amateurs combined with sort of far right militarists, and it's a very confusing time.
Another point I want to raise before I let you go to continue your preparations for this peace march is going to take place here just a couple days, Sunday, May 15th at 2 p.m. in Gwanghwamun, of course, in Seoul. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going to have a peace activist and a researcher at the Asia Institute, Yo Kawanaka, visiting Seoul the weekend of this event. So coming up, attending the peace march. So how did Kawanaka get involved with this event, and what is her background?
So she is a peace advocate, and she's also worked on the Fukushima crisis in Japan. And she's been trying to reach out to various NGOs and other organizations here in Korea. So we brought her over specifically for this event. But I think I really wanted. I mean, basically, it's Japanese, I have Dr. Singh, who's Indian, myself as an American, and then we have others, Koreans, of course, who'll be there. But to say this is not just a Korean-driven initiative, but it's really a global, international. And I think Japan is particularly important because there's a tendency in Korea to think of Japan as just being these the bad militarist Japanese, and that there's not really an interest in working with Japanese, and in many cases, I wouldn't say in all cases, but it's simply wrong. There's a very large number of people in Japan who are very concerned. Recent demonstrations against the Abe administration have been the largest in the last 40 years in Japan. It really is a movement there. So we're hoping that these efforts can be linked together with efforts elsewhere to sort of start a real serious dialogue on peace. And I would close that by saying that the new president of Korea, Moon Jae-in, who was just sworn in, and I heard his very brief, very succinct inaugural speech. I've grown up, or I've learned to be a little cautious with politicians and what they say, as we know from Obama. But his speech was, I thought, quite positive, suggesting that peace should be a high priority. And I thought most significantly, linking the idea of security to peace, to say that if you want security, you have to start with a drive for peace.
Excellent. So, Emmanuel, before I let you go, let's just talk very quickly about the event itself. So it's coming up. It's going to be this Sunday, May 15th, meeting at 2 p.m., the March for Peace, in front of the Sejong Performing Arts Center in Gwanghwamun, Seoul. So what's going to happen there?
Well, I think initially we'll have a few opening remarks by myself, Dr. Sang, Lee Dae-kyung, the president of the Tomorrow, which is a major think tank we've worked with, and maybe a few other people. And then we'll march around to City Hall and then to the Gwanghwamun, the entrance to the Gyeongbok Palace. And then I think we'll probably have a chance to talk about these issues. What is peace? How will we achieve it? How do we secure it? What are the sort of main challenges to try and change the direction of things? We haven't basically, if you looked over the last 10 years, there have been a few ups and downs, but basically we've had a constant drive for greater tension, increased military activities against North Korea, and of course, in some cases, explicitly or implicitly against China, and of course, Russia, etc., in other parts of the world. And this has been very destructive. We want to start something, even if it starts with just one little, one step forward, to start going in the opposite direction, to say our priority is to reduce tensions, not to increase them, and that the purpose is not to, make profits through the sales of weapon systems, but to actually do what needs to be done to assure peace in the area, and maybe equally important, to start focusing the idea of security on the response to climate change and other serious threats that we face, which cannot be addressed with aircraft carriers or missile defense.
And for anyone who has attended an Asia Institute talk, event, if you were, whatever you want to call it, these are the parts that are my favorite, the discussion. I've gone to quite a few. Sometimes you do simultaneous interpretation. From
we try.
You do. I mean, you're very, you speak Korean. I think you also do Japanese as well. So you're a very strong resource for the Asia Institute, and I'm sure they're happy to have you. So, Emmanuel, best of luck with this upcoming Peace March. Once again, 2 p.m., May 15th. That's this Sunday, March for Peace at the Sejong Performing Arts Center in Gwanghwamun, Seoul. I've been speaking with the director of the Asia Institute, Emmanuel Pastereich, and he's also a professor at Kyungki University. So, Emmanuel, best of luck marching this weekend. I hope the weather cooperates.
Thank you. We'll be there, rain or shine. And if it's just me and a couple people, or it's hundreds, that really isn't so important. We want to just start walking in the right direction.
This episode is brought to you by Podcast Assist, offering voiceovers, audio editing and mastering, transcriptions and show notes, episode summaries, and even hosting a podcast on a topic important to you. Visit facebook.com/Podcast Assist for more info on their flat $30 per hour rate.
Talk radio, music, and podcasts from the Korean Peninsula. KoreaFM.net.